All right, you guys, welcome back to EXP Family Tree Revenue Share Huddle. It is Monday again. Monday just keeps coming faster and faster every single time, doesn't it? We're already into the end, close to the end of February. So hopefully you guys are looking at all your goals here and thinking, okay, if I haven't gotten myself into gear, I probably should, because we're well into quarter 1. Time is flying by like it always does. And today we have a guest with us on the EXP Family Tree Revenue Share Huddle that I'm very excited to announce. And we're going to go ahead and have a conversation with another person who has had success in revenue share growth here at EXP to just continue to bring you ideas, thoughts, things that you can bring into your own world, your own goals. We're so fortunate. Nearly every single Monday, we have people coming in and contributing to this group. And really, that's a testament to the culture of EXP. When I reach out to people and they say, sure, no problem, let me look at my schedule. Like, no one is pushing back. People always want to contribute. That is not the case at most companies. I'm sure most of you that have come from somewhere else realize that. But I just wanted to reiterate that, because recently I've been reaching back out to get more people to come in as guests for us as we were winding down the group that we had before. And it's just always a reminder to me, like, this is very hard for me to ask.
Thank you for registering on my website. I see.
There we go. We got to mute. Everybody mute yourselves, please. But anyway, so what a blessing that we're surrounded with people who are willing to share with us. So today we've got Al, and Al, is it Stasek?
Yep.
Did I say that correct? Stasek, yep. Of course, 50% chance, and I always go the other one. Al Stasek, no fail. Al Stasek is with us today, and he is going to be sharing some best practices with us, because he has had success here at EXP in the revenue share model. And however it is that you are envisioning taking advantage of this great opportunity, I hope that you will be willing to ask questions, as you always do, engage, and just don't be shy, because this conversation is going to be better if you're all part of it. Al, I go ahead and watch the live stream, and if people have questions there, I'll bring it in for us, because we do have a lot of people watching live. And then you guys here who are on Zoom, make sure you use the chat box or just unmute yourself, raise your hand, and let's have a great discussion. Before we get started, Al, can you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you. How long you've been at EXP? What does your revenue share group look like? Why revenue share? Why has it been important to you? Or, what would be something that you can share off the bat? And then we'll just kind of get into some just conversation about how your life looks today as you work inside of the EXP world.
Sure. Thanks, Cari. Appreciate you inviting me on here. And I love doing stuff, like this for people who are hungry, humble, and smart. I think, kind of coming out of from a marketing background, I connected with Michael Reese and Jay Kinder back in 2009, and they really taught me that it's not the best real estate agent who wins, it's the best marketer. And I had to really shift my mind from, okay, I've been to every sales, training that under the sun. I bought everything that there was to buy, every coaching in the box thing, I bought it. But a lot of that focused mostly on how to become a better salesperson and process and stuff like this. And I needed to become a marketer first. And if you become the marketer and you think from a mindset of how a marketer thinks about things, it starts to it plugs the holes, the real estate roller coaster that a lot of us have found ourselves on in the past, where 1 month it's a great month, the next month it's not a great month. Really, that's a function of your ability to market and become a marketer and attract people versus chasing. And I've done, there's nothing wrong with chasing. I mean, I started growing my real estate business, from hitting the phones, because it was the only thing I could afford to do, because the phone was, I guess as close to free as possible. I mean, we all pay for our phones, but, I could call for sale by owners expireds all day. It was low hanging fruit. It was cheap. I didn't have to pay for expensive Zillow leads and stuff like that. So that's just how I started. And so I know this isn't about selling more houses, but it's about selling more houses for others. And I was literally just, the reason I'm a little late, and I apologize, is I was on a 3-way call. And I think one of my agents, it's actually great that I was on the 3-way call with my friend Darren, who I sponsored about a year ago. Darren isn't somebody that, he's a great entrepreneur. He's a great businessman. He runs a high-end building company, and he's got a team that does about 40 million. And one feeds the other. They both feed each other. But what's the best about Darren is that Darren just follows the process. And I'm not going to steal this from Rob Flick, because Rob Flick came on one of our Zoom meetings a couple weeks ago, and I wrote this down, and I wrote 2 pages of notes from Rob. And the one thing that I wrote was that, well, I'll look at this. The one thing Rob said that made me laugh was, "I wish stupid hurt," but that's not what I was going to share with you.
That is a good one, Al.
It is a good one. I mean,
It is true.
so many, right? But it's not about that. It's really about the things to grow a successful business in agent attraction is not about the shiny objects or the easy button. It's about doing the things that are not sexy. They're not, because it's the same thing every Monday, or it's the same thing every Tuesday, or maybe it's Friday. Whenever you decide to focus on this part of your business, it's not going to be the fun, sexy part. I mean, you can fall in love with the process, that's fine, but the results are sexy. Okay, I can just tell you that. The results are very, very beautiful. But the process in getting there is just doing the same boring stuff every day, every week, and focus on those lead measures, not focusing on the lagging measures, because you will start to sponsor agents. You will start to grow if you focus on the lead measures. And those lead measures, I'm going to go over with you guys like today, and I'm going to have to go fast because I have a course, by the way, that I'll give you guys the link for free.
Awesome.
I'll actually get it over to you, Cari, and then you can maybe send it out to everybody.
I will.
Because it's not, I don't have I'd have to find the link.
Okay.
But it's about a 2-hour course that I'm not going to smush into a few minutes here.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And it starts with really first becoming a student and being open-minded to whatever you're doing right now. There might be a better way. And that just, remember, hungry, humble, and smart. That's who I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who are looking for us. And I want someone to be open-minded enough to think, well, what I'm doing right now, there might be a better way. And I believe the better way is, number one, you have to start with your list. I probably take about 3 or 4 calls a week where people get in my calendar and they're like, man, I'm stuck. I already had 2 today. And they were just like stuck. And the one young lady who got on a call out of Florida, she's in the Orlando area, has 400 people on her revenue share. Like, she's in the beta group. She's not doing poorly. She's actually kicking butt, right? And she's just like, I'm stuck. I'm hitting that ceiling. Like, I just don't know I had all this momentum and things are going great. And then all of a sudden I start losing a couple people, and she had lost, and she's like feeling that sting, that pain. I'm here to tell everybody, whether you're like already at 400 or you're at 4 or you're at 0, my advice is going to be the same. Let's get back to the basics. Let's get back to your list. If you don't have a wealth chart, my belief is that this is just my belief, not a judgment, but it's my belief. If you're not using a wealth chart, you're not serious about growing your revenue share. It's just like one of those things. Like, if you're like back when I was licensed in 1998, if you as a man, if you didn't have a suit and tie, then you weren't serious about selling lots of real estate. I say the same thing. For ladies, you got to have a great, I used to call them power suits. The ladies' dresses that are like power suits. They're going out and closing deals, right? So that's just something that you needed to have. And now everything's obviously more laid back in real estate, but back then, that's what it was. Yeah. And today, for revenue share, it's your wealth chart. The reason why the wealth chart is so important is it gives you a visual to see whether you're winning or losing. You have to have something to look at daily that's going to show whether you're winning or losing. And so this starts with our list. And so if you haven't gone into your phone and found at least 25 to 50 individuals who you already know, love, and trust, like I always just say, start there because it's the easiest thing to do. I will also say this. Mike Reese told me, like, when we came over and we started building together, Mike, we get on the phone every day almost. Okay. And the thing he said, he's always about mental models. And so he goes, Al, you want to hear my new mental model about agent attraction? I said, yes, because I write his stuff down too. He says, I'm going to start with the person who scares me the most. I'm calling them first. Like, I'm going to start with the person I'm most nervous about calling, because I'm like, in my mind, they'll never come. Start with them first. And it was brilliant, because the truth of the matter is, like, over the last 5.5 years, since I've brought my brokerage over, here's what I've noticed. Here's what I've observed. The people that are in the alpha group and the beta group who are just killing it, most of them have a similar story. It goes something like this. I will never go to EXP. I have my own brokerage. Why would I ever go? I'm just don't even talk to me about it, because I ain't interested. Most of those people are your best people that you could ever, you know what I'm saying? They're very strong-willed, they're strong-minded. And if directed in the right direction, that can be that's just great, because they're going to be strong-minded after we bring them over, but their mind, the gate of their mind hasn't been opened yet. Gene Frederick 101. We can't pry the gate of their mind open. It has to be opened by them, but we can help them, guide them by putting them in a position to where it opens up. The way we open up the mind is by a couple things. One, we have to build trust. Two, we have to build authority. And trust just means that they trust you. You're building relationships. You're building that trust within the relationship. We call it making deposits into the relationship. If you've ever heard John Cheplack talk, he talks about making deposits into the relationship bank account that you have with these human beings, because that's what we're in, right? And we do that through offers. So what I teach agent attraction is that it's jab, 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 hook, just like Gary V talks about. And those jabs are value driven stuff. So step one, we got to get our list together. Step two, how are we engaging with them? Okay. How are we engaging with them? And it's not sending them a video about EXP explained. Just please don't do that. Okay. Because that's not how we engage. We engage by making deposits. We engage by inviting them to things that we can invite them to that are going to help them grow their business. And we have several things that we do with our group. We have like live coaching and trainings every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That's open to anybody. And we invite people to those, and they get value out of them, because those 3 trainings have nothing to do with EXP, revenue share, stock, none of that, nothing to do with EXP, period. It's just about growing their business. It's about selling more homes, how to manage your time better, mindset, building funnels, and we have someone that just like teaches that every single week. So those are the things that I use as what I call my cheese offers. And if you're like, what are you talking? You're offering cheese? No, I'm not actually offering like hunks of cheese. There's a book called Who Hid My Cheese? I think it's called Who Hid My Cheese.
Who Moved My Cheese?
Who Moved My Cheese? Thank you. And the premise of the book is, and this is really super important for you guys to remember, if you're going to make a shift into being a marketer, you have to understand the difference between cheese and whiskers offers. Okay. And the premise of the book, if you read it, and I would encourage everybody to get in and read it, because it's easy and it's short and it's just good. And it really, really like cements you in your mind as a marketer, is that a mouse will chew through drywall if they smell cheese on the other end to get to the dry. They'll literally chew through drywall to get to the hunk of cheese on the other side. They smell through the wall. And when they get through there, if they see the whiskers of a cat, they're gone. And I want you guys, because they know they're about to be eaten, but they want the cheese. So in our world, the whiskers is EXP. The whiskers is the EXP offer. That's just a straight, we call it that's the straight whiskers offer. And there's a time for that. But up front, it has to be cheese, cheese, cheese. It's got to be deposit, deposit, deposit. So the easiest way I can help you today is to say, get your list together, and then we want to stack our ammo. And what that means is stacking your ammo is stacking what are your cheese offers every single week. I had it written over here on my whiteboard. I like things on a whiteboard. That's just me, like personally, like how I organize my people is, and I wrote at the top, what am I inviting to this week? Every week, it's the question I ask myself, because I look at my whiteboard, it says, what are you inviting to this week? And I try to make it, sometimes it's the same thing I did last week. Sometimes it's a new thing. And I would also say this, is like, the biggest and best things that you can do in making these time investments and even sometimes money investments is investing in getting people to events. These events, I'm going to tell you, this company, EXP, was built on the back of events, live events where people can connect, have collisions, have breakthroughs, have ahas, connect, collaborate at live events like EXPCon. I've brought, I think the most we ever brought was like 40 people to build at one point. That's personally invites that we made the investment. And I can tell you that every dollar we've invested into bringing people to an event has come back tenfold. So, I don't know if you want to, how much time are we 30 minutes on this, or are we an hour?
No, we have a full hour, so we're done at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Perfect. So I can keep going. So
Yes.
in recapping, we need to have our list. And I want to go back to that list in a second because it's relevant on who we have on that list, because it's important. Okay. Then the second step is we engage with those people. Our second is to build relationships. We engage with them. We make deposits weekly with them. Okay. By the way, most people on your list may not even say thank you to you. Most people on the list may not even show up at the event you invited them to. I'm here to tell you guys it's okay. That's normal. Expect that. The cool thing is the deposit still counts. Whether they show up at where you're inviting them to, whether it's, if you're part of a group that's doing live masterminds and you can invite outsiders to it, whether it's that or it's a live event that you're going to locally, like if they show up or not, you made the invite. So you've already made that impact, right? Like it's probably more than what their current broker has done for them in the last 6 months. So stay the course. Don't get discouraged in that middle piece, this engagement part. You may start sending stuff out. Darren, so Coach Burt is a good friend of mine. I know you guys probably have heard of Coach Burt. If you hadn't, he's a sales coach, great human being. And we've done a bunch of stuff with him with our group, Honey Badger Nation. And he now he goes around and people just hire him directly. So Coach Darren sent out like 70 text messages with a free like 1 hour coaching thing that Coach Burt was doing on increasing your prey drive. That's just one of his concepts that he teaches on. And out of the 70 people, there was only like maybe less than 10 that actually showed up. But 2 of them reached out and says, we need to have a conversation about EXP. He didn't invite them to talk about EXP or invite them to a EXP explain thing. He stayed into the zone of deposits and value. He stayed into the cheese offer, if you will, of just adding value to their lives. And there's a point where if you do this consistently enough and you don't give up when you don't hear back from them, you don't give up when they aren't answering your text messages. Trust me, they just have other stuff going on in their lives, and you're not one of the priorities at this point. But it comes to a point where when there will be a point where they will be, when their broker pisses them off, or they're like, damn, I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired, or whatever it is. Like there's that point, and who's going to be there when that happens? You want to be there when that happens. You want to be there, the ones that've been pouring into them when there was nothing in it for you, really, and you weren't clubbing them over the head with an EXP club, making them feel dumb for being at the brokerage they're at. It's another thing. That's a no-no you don't want to do. Don't ever be like, why aren't you here yet? Like when you ask that question, you're immediately going to put somebody in a defensive posture, and no one wants to feel like they're in a defensive posture. I'll be honest with you. It's the number one reason I never joined Keller Williams. I was a Remax guy, in and out, and loved Remax. And I ended up going independent and not to KW because the person that was recruiting me, well, there were multiple people, but one of them was like, why aren't you here yet? Like, you're going to be here eventually, but like, you can't take that stance with certain people because you're going to turn them off and you're going to make them feel like they're dumb. So don't do that. Just try to meet them where they're at. Help them solve a problem. Money's not exchanged until problems are solved. I would write that one down. I'm gonna go in here in the chat and see what we got here. Oh, Cari. Okay, I wasn't looking at the chat. Do we want to go into the chat and
No, actually, we're just putting notes in the chat. There's no
okay.
questions in the chat yet, but however, if everybody wants to start putting questions in the chat, please do. Right now, I think everybody's just like furiously writing notes about everything that you're saying. So,
Okay.
oh, wait a minute. There is a question. Kevin, Al, do you have funnels you create to agent attract?
Yeah. So the answer to the question is yes. So Jay and I work together, and we have built funnels. So one of the things that we're building right now, or we've built, I should say, is a webinar on how to build funnels. And that most agents like have heard the term funnel, but it's like, what is that even, right? But all it is it's just it's a landing page where you can drive traffic to with an offer, capture their information. And, you know, for us, it's a webinar. And webinars are not the easiest thing to put together. So I don't know if I want to spend a ton of time on it, Kevin. Yes, we do. I think it's a higher level thing that I think everyone should be doing it, but it's a heavy lift because you have to have the ability to build whatever your superpower is that you think you can teach something that's highly valuable to lots of agents that helps them solve a problem. If you're able to put that in the form of a webinar, this is a way that we call this a top of funnel strategy that you can take strangers, build trust with them, build authority with them, and at the end, make them an offer. And we do that. In fact, let me see if I can find the link. You guys can go in and watch Jay's webinar. It's Thursday. Let me put it in here. I believe it's win or start.com. I believe
Before you start, oh,
yeah, I put that into the thing. I believe that is the URL that leads you to his webinar. So you can kind of watch his webinar.
okay.
You can see exactly what I'm teaching today. You know, the first step, build the list. Well, if we're using a webinar to do what I'm talking about right now, which we're not, but if we were, our first step is building the list. Said differently, in a webinar, it's registrations. Okay. So our registrations is our list of people that we are now going to build trust with and authority. How does he build trust and authority? He shows them everything that he's been able to do over the last 20 years in real estate. He shows vulnerability and the mistakes he's made and the money that he's lost, right? And then he's like, okay, then I found a better way. Goes into the webinar about how he's able to build a sales funnel, run really, really good ads, and get leads for under $2 a lead, and teaches people exactly how to do that. And I can tell you guys, we've all been on these webinars. How many times have you been on a webinar where you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And they even give you like all the steps to do. But when you're at the end of it, you're like, I mean, this is great. You told me how to do it, but I don't know where do I even start? So our offer is a done for you. Like, you can do everything that we just showed you, or we can do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I just pulled this up, this win before you start, for whoever asked. If you guys go there, it's lead generation masterclass. It looks really awesome with a lot of different bullet points. So after this call, not while you've got Al front and center, go there because it'll answer some of those funnel questions.
and so thank you. And I guess the thing I want to caution you guys on is that before you go to a strategy like a webinar strategy, I think you have to start with what we're talking about, which is start with the people who you already know. Think about it like this. If you knew that there's 2 mountains that you can climb, okay? The first mountain, and if you get to the top of it, there's a pile of gold up there waiting, right? The first mountain, mountain number 1 is 12,000 feet. Mountain number 2 is 4,000 feet. Same pile of gold. Now, unless you really just enjoy pain, you're gonna climb the second mountain, which is only 4,000 feet high, because you're gonna get to the pile of gold quicker. And that's my advice I would give anybody listening to this. Like, Start that second one as your second strategy, a top of funnel. Start with the people who you already know will benefit from growing their business on this platform. The beautiful thing about EXP isn't revenue share or stock, although that is the reason why most of the big people come. The reason why those two things are the best is that enables and it financially incentivizes all the leaders who are selling, who have sold 500 homes a year, who've coached people to success. It incentivizes them to help everyone else, just like what we're doing right here, without the expectation of a credit card coming over. You know, you see what I'm saying? Like that was, you know, before EXP came along, it was a coaching play. We'd have to take the credit card at the end, and it was that, right? Or you could just join us and we can help you for free. And so that's the beauty in the revenue share program. Not everybody is going to come for revenue share. They're going to come to grow their business. And, you know, and those other things are super important to a lot of the leaders. And if I would assume if you guys are on this call learning right now and you take the time out of your day to learn this, that you're serious about growing your organization. And if you are, it's the basics. Start with the people who already know, love, and trust you, the people who want to see you win, the people who you want to see win. Start with the easiest, not the strangers, because the thing is on that webinar every week, we'll have about 90 people register. And I would say that, you know, a lot of them are strangers or people that don't know us. So the process of getting somebody to a place where they would trust us enough, we have to build the trust. We have to build the authority. So when you go with a webinar, I'm not saying it wouldn't work. I'm saying it's a lot easier to go with the people that are the low hanging fruit. Okay. So let's start with that list, the EXP wealth chart. I'm going to tell you this. I got to my first 1,000 agents in my revenue share group in the first 12 months with not one webinar. We did not have a webinar. There was no top of funnel. It was just connecting with my networks and getting out there and helping people solve problems. And that's what we stuck to. And the other thing that I want to share with everybody, because I think it would be unfair to leave this part out, because there's a lot of people that work way harder than I do with agent attraction and don't have the results. And when I've looked back and asked myself why that happened, is because of who I've chose to, like, coming out of the gates. When Michael J and I and John Kitchens, we moved our brokerages over. We locked ourselves in a room in Dallas, Texas. This would have been November of 2017. And we said, how are we going to do this? Because we had no idea. We never recruited before. We were not recruiters. In fact, our game was weird. It was, how can we sell the most amount of homes with the least amount of people? That's like saying, how can we win the most amount of soccer games with the least amount of players? It doesn't work like that. The beauty in our business is you can have as many players as you want to win. You know, the more players, the better. But we're like, let's see how many we could sell with the least amount. So we had to come in and be like, okay, how would we approach this? Like, what should we do? And the answer, the short answer to that was, we had an influencer strategy, which was the same way that you would build, you know, a coaching business. You'd focus on people who are influential or who want to be influential, people who are movers and shakers, people that are team leaders and brokers of independent brokerages or managers of offices who are just leaders and they understand leverage. I don't have to talk someone into like leverage. I'm not going to try to like talk you into why revenue share could change your life. If you don't understand that passive income, you know, that comes in, that takes care of all of your personal expenses, and that you can make 6 or 7 figures per year without, whether you get out of bed or not. You know, if I have to talk you into that, you may not be the right, you know, avatar that I want to be speaking to. So you got to look for the reason that we shot up as fast as we did is because we focused on people who are leaders, people who understood building, you know, like the last call that I was on right before this call. I didn't have to talk her into that. She's already making about $400,000 a year as a solo agent. And she's like, okay, I'm tired. I've been running on this treadmill for 10 years. I'm listing and selling my tail off, and I'm ready to like build my business a different way. I have something to offer to agents. I know I can do it, you know. And so the conversation was with someone, you know, I don't have to talk her into that. So the quality of your list matters. It's not about just, throwing 25 names on the board and your list. You can have your producers. That's fine. We want people that are out there producing that want to grow their business from 20 to 40, from 40 to 50. But you also want for the exponential growth, if you want to hit 1,000 agents, you got to have what we call generals. Someone, who's just going to take the ball, run with it, and you're not going to have to talk them off the ledge every other week because they're not seeing the results. They're just going to stay committed to the result and do the work. And I was fortunate enough to find a few of them. The good news is you guys don't need a lot of them. 1 or 2, and it can really start to go. But you don't just focus on, the agents that want to sell more houses. You should be focusing on teams that want to sell and grow their teams and leverage and brokerages, because they understand the piece of leverage.
Al, there's a question in the right along. It's right on target with what you're talking about right now from Zach. He says, and he said this actually, asked this question actually before you got into this, but it's still appropriate. What about talking with broker owners? That's my scary call to make. I've had a number of conversations with my first broker owner. Any advice?
Well, that's exact. I mean, it's a great question because it's the right question. And it's exactly what I was just going over for the last 5 minutes. The answer is yes, and yeah, like Mike says, his mental model when he thinks about who he's going to talk to is who am I scared to talk to? Who makes me the most amount of nervous to pick the phone up and have a conversation? Just do it. They ain't going to bite you through the phone. That I can guarantee you. You might get hung up on. They may tell you you're not interested. That's okay. But if you're not opening up with, hey, maybe you should join EXP, which is going to be a hard no for 99% of people. You're opening up with value. You're opening up with those cheese offers we talked about. You're opening up with, hey man, this training's going on and I thought of you. I thought that this would be right up your alley because these are some of the problems that I've had. And you're really opening up that conversation with teams and brokers. It might change a little bit because you talk about their agents, and say, hey, look, this is not a recruiting training at all. Not about EXP or nothing, but this can really help your agents. And if you want to bring it to them, help them, give them the handles to the luggage and say it was their idea. Hey, there's this great training on follow-up. And so that's one example right there. We did Jay and I just wrote a book called $1 Million Follow-Up for Real Estate Agents. It's a spin-off of his book that was called $1 Million Follow-Up. And it's a system for following up, actual paint by numbers. It's not winging it, which I did in my business for years. I winged my follow-up. Therefore, it wasn't as effective as it could have been. But if I had a system that I could follow, which is what I do today with my agent attraction, that was a follow-up system, I could exponentially grow my business and see big results. So, I'll be offering, that's for me, I'll be offering that book for free. I'll be sending those free books out to people, figure out ways to start to build these relationships, figure out ways to start making these deposits. I also shoot videos on YouTube, and I use the YouTube videos as deposits because very few of those YouTube videos I shoot have anything to do with EXP. A lot of them are just, they're mindset driven or whatever. So I look for opportunities to send them those. And it builds trust because I'm not in there, not talking about recruiting. It's usually just it's a principle based thing that I'm sharing that they appreciate and that they like.
Love that.
Another book that I'm sharing people.
You guys, while Al's getting that, again, if you have any questions, type them in the chat box. And if you want to ask Al a question directly, just raise your hand and we'll unmute and you can jump in to ask your question if you want to get some real deep clarity. I mean, he grew 1,000 people in 1 year. That's pretty incredible, right, Cari? I mean,
yeah. And I don't know, 1 year. Now, what I'd like to ask him is how many of those people were, hey, Al, of the 1,000 people in year one, because we know the compounding effect, obviously, of EXP, how many did you personally partner with in your front line during that time? just because that gives some good perspective for agents who are looking at what's reasonable for them in terms of goals and whatnot.
I think it was like 38. I don't think I think I fell short of my goal was 40. But it was 38. And so it wasn't a big number, everybody. As you can see,
Yep.
I wasn't like, I wouldn't have won like recruiter of the year by any means, you know, for the first year. But that's why I said that the quality is just as important, if not more than the quantity.
Yeah,
You know?
because 38, you guys turned to 1,000, and that's the point. So people who understand this model and want to take advantage of it for themselves, as well as those producing agents. And by the way, some of the best revenue share earners are also still selling a lot of real estate, so you can do both and use the relationships and your productivity as the authority, as the reason people want to be in your world. So, you know, just looking for people that understand this, you have to understand it first, and then being able to articulate it. And again, you don't always have to do all those appointments. Al talked about the third party. He's on calls with his people. I'm on calls with my people every single day. Becky, John, all of us. And so we're here to help you, making sure that you take advantage of that. And you don't try to do everything on your own in the learning process. I think is key, because you're going to get frustrated, and nobody needs to succeed alone. We're all in this together. That's the whole point of this model. So Al, you were looking for a book.
Yeah. So this is a book. And the one that I was actually wanting to look for, I didn't find, and I know we're short on time, but I think that everybody should read this book. If you have not read this book, it's called Building an Empire by Briner Carruthers. So one of the first things, like, I hope that you guys come away with a lot of nuggets and ahas today. But one of the biggest things I want you to understand is that I don't have it all figured out. And we never had it all figured out from day one. But the one thing we did have figured out is that we were learners, and we were going to become students of this game. We flew Briner Carruthers down to Key West to speak to our mastermind, which was basically our core people, and teach us what we didn't know, which was agent attraction and training. You know, this is he's a network marketer. We are not network marketers, but there is an element to what we do that perfectly aligns. The same principles that drive, you know, that he drives in this book are the principles that we've taken and then shifted them over in a way to use to add value to agents' lives and then attract them into wanting to be in business with us. It's the same thing. And so that's one for everyone else to read. But the other book that I think I probably, you know what, I gave them all away. That's why I don't have many around here. It's called it's by Brian too. It's the manifesto. I'll think of it and I'll get it over to you, Cari. But if you want to Google Briner Carruthers books, it's something.
I'm doing it now. There's Money Mindset, Untapped, Trapped, Manifesto.
That's it, Untrapped. So you can buy those books in bulk. I think I bought like 20 of them. And the beauty with that book is that, remember we talked about, you can't pry the gate of the mind open. It has to be pried open from internally, not externally. That book will open it up. The book sort of sells people, the reader, on the idea of what you're doing, running on the hamster wheel is only going to get you so far. At one point, like the young lady that I talked to right before hopping on this call, Erica, she was just tired. She's tired. She's making great money. She's making more money than she's ever made before, $400,000 a year. Things are good, you know, but she knows that at one point, she's either going to have to keep beating that drum every single year, or something's going to have to change to where she can bring in a multiple streams of income that now start to take replacement of the active income, give her more time to enjoy it. Those were her words too. And so this is beauty. This is a beautiful book that does that. I gave all mine away, so I need to make another order. Thank you. But this is great too. And the trainings that we have built are based on that book. So what is your, let's see here, we got a question. What is your initial?
What is your initial first few sentences when you call one of the brokers or team members? Question: is there an opening, or is there an opening question?
Well, so I don't cold call people. I never have. Just so you guys know, my first step is about building a relationship. So if I don't have an existing relationship with that broker, I figure out a way of getting into one with them. And
Mhm.
maybe it's seeing them at one of the board meetings. You know, in hindsight, looking back, the one thing I would have done differently on a local level is I would have gotten involved as much as I possibly could into the board stuff.
Mhm.
You think about it, a lot of people that have like that natural instinct to lead and leadership stuff and that want to give back, which is all the same qualities that you have to have as an agent attraction leader, is the people that are joining the board. Not all of them. Not all of them. We get all kinds at the board. We all know that, right? But my goal is to get in front of people. This is a one-to-many deal. And when I was growing my business back in the day, like 10, 20 years ago, I stayed away from the board because I didn't have the insight to understand that I could build a lot of relationships that would benefit me down the road. I was just a money hungry 25-year-old who's like, just give me the phone and get out of my way. You know, like I just didn't have the right mindset. I stayed away from the board stuff. In hindsight, I would have gotten involved more often. And eventually I did wake up and got involved before I was 40, you know, in YPN. You know, YPN, I think is just a great organization. I think that the Women's Council is a great organization. And I'm a sponsor of the Women's Council, even though I don't identify as a woman. That's a joke. It wasn't great for me. But I love the women's. I'll go and speak for the Women's Council, and I sponsor as I'm one of their highest sponsors every single year. And where I fall short is I need to be able to get to more of their events. These are the events like Dancing with the Realtors and stuff like that. Like things they're doing are great, and their purpose is to support, you know, women that are growing their business in real estate and make them rock stars or give them the inspiration to be bigger and better, right? And I'm going to support that all day long. Same thing with YPN or any of the other organizations. It's a one-to-many. If you don't have those relationships, those are the places you want to go build them.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you're in production, it's even easier because you have more collisions with agents from other brokerages and possibly even other brokers. So go to where they're at, and then the conversation starts to become not about EXP. The conversation, to answer your question, Eva, is that, you know, how can you get into a relationship with them? You know, like if your goal was, let's say you were a single mom or a single dad, and you were trying to, you know, find your next soulmate, and you were big time into fitness. Well, I would be hanging out in a gym where there's other people that are similar, that have the similar interests of you. So the same thing with where are these brokers hanging out? Who are the brokers that you would want to work with that are growing? Are they in masterminds? If I were to point at one thing, and I could only choose one thing that was why we grew as fast as we grew, it was because of the mastermind that we had. The Cari's mastermind had about 40 to 50 people who they weren't interested in playing small. They were interested in playing big. They were interested in growing multi-million-dollar businesses. And we all met together, and we committed money and time every single year to get together and share with each other in a very humble environment, to where we were okay being vulnerable and this and that. Like if I were to point out one thing, it was that. And I'm not suggesting that you guys go out and start one of those unless you really are ambitious and you want to start a mastermind. It's heavy to do. You know, you could do it locally where it's not that heavy, but like you are looking for people who are looking for you. You are looking for people who are hungry, humble, and smart. Not that you're going to have to drag to the finish line kicking and screaming, because I'm going to guarantee you guys this. Every single person that I've dragged over, like, come on, just trust me. This is going to be great for you. They're gone about as fast as we can get them over. So just remember that, like, it's a big deal. You're going to spend a lot of time onboarding some of these people, especially the big dogs, the whales. Okay. Make sure that they're the right fit. Because some people, you know, even though we say like everybody's coming, it's fun to say that, because I do believe everybody that has the right mindset is coming.
Mhm.
But it's not for everybody. There are some people
Mhm.
that they're better off operating on their own island because they don't play
Mhm.
nice with others and they're not learners and they're not growers. Don't put those people on your list. And if you find that there is one on your list, boot them off the list pretty quick, because you just don't want to spend your time, energy, effort, maybe sometimes money on a ticket somewhere or whatever, on someone that's not in learner mode and growth mode, and that can get humble and learn.
So there is, Iva actually had a follow-up to her broker question. I think this is one that probably a lot of us want to hear. She said she was actually, and I should have been more clear about this, she was actually referring to someone she knows. So let's say you've got your list, right? Let's say you've got 2 or 3 broker owners or heavy influencers that you're in relationship with, that know you, that know you're at EXP, and you want to start building a relationship with them. You know them, but how do you kind of move that toward a conversation, I guess, about EXP is what she's asking. What is the opening question you go into when you're in relationship with them already?
I mean, if I'm already in relationship with them and they would have if I would call somebody up, if I could call this person up, that if I said, hey man, let's go grab a beer, or let's go grab, I don't drink beer, but like, let's say wine or coffee or whatever. I'm like, hey man, I haven't caught up with you so long. Hope you and Lisa, his wife or whatever, I hope you and Lisa and the kids are great. Let's catch up Thursday. You have time. We also use Top Golf for that reason too. We'll invite them to Top Golf.
Yeah.
And like, we'll just get them over like, hey man, you want to come hit some balls? Like I'm trying to find a common area, like whether it's, but most of these people, they're super busy too. So maybe you need to find out what they're going to be doing, whether, you know what I mean? Like what do they do for fun? Maybe if it's not golf, it's something else, and insert yourself into that equation somehow. But like, then in that case, if you already knew them and whatever, then it's a lot easier. I just met an individual at Starbucks the other day, and this is somebody I'm going to give you guys, like what the truth of this game is. Okay. I work like on the big people on average. I'll work with them sometimes 2 or 3 years. That when I say long game, I'm talking long game, right? It's not like one coffee appointment and they're jumping in the boat. I'm like meeting with them multiple times. And sometimes it's for Starbucks. Sometimes I'm inviting them to Top Golf to just come and swing the club and golf with me. Sometimes I'm inviting them into a mastermind that I think, or a training call that I think would benefit them. And so it's having all of these things to start the conversation with. And most of the time, and I'm talking 9 out of 10 times, they're just going to come right out and be like, all right, so let's talk about EXP. You'll never have to bring it up because they do. And when that opens up, that you've accomplished the goal, which is opening up the gate of their mind. Initially, it's really the goal. And again, like if they're really, really opposed to it, usually that means they're strong-minded. It means that if we can get them over that hump, we get them over the hump by getting those connections, having those coffees, get them to Top Golf, get them to things that, are common with them. And that's, I don't mean to not answer your question, but that's how I would answer it.
I think that definitely answers it, because what you're saying is you're saying, hey, what is it that they like to do, or what are they doing? And then insert yourself into that so that you can have some conversation with them. And if you're already into relationship with them by making deposits, not just because you know them, but because you're making deposits. So like, for example, with Iva, the broker, I think what you're saying, Alice, call that broker up and saying, hey, what are some things that your agents really need help with right now? Or what training do they need? Or, what do you need as a broker owner? And start making deposits into their business so that when you ask them to get together with you, it doesn't feel awkward. Is that what you're saying, Al?
Yes. And also identifying. So there's a couple resources I will give you guys. One is going to be Mike Reese's Agent Attraction course. It's only like 45 minutes long. It's really quick. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, but I will warn you, there is an opt-in on it. So, but it's not my list or anything. It's Mike's agentattractiontraining.com, I believe is where it is. And it breaks down the different personas. So one thing, Iva, that you can do is if you're looking to grow right now, right? You could go to a broker that, let's say the broker is successful. They got 20, 50, 60, they're big time, right? Let's say you were to go to them, asking them for advice. Like, hey, I just need your help. Would you mind helping me get unstuck on something? Here's what I'm trying to do. 100% transparency. Like, I'm trying to grow my organization like you're growing yours. I can see that you've been super successful. If there's anything that you could share with me that would be, I would just love to pick your brain. And that's what Darren does. Like, hey, I just love to pick your brain on some stuff. Now they may think that you're going to be recruiting them. You're not doing that. You're building the relationship. And sometimes that means kneeling down, looking up and asking for the help, especially if they've accomplished more than you have in your business. Like, let's say their persona is, a broker that has a small indie brokerage of 10 people that are selling 300 homes a year. Let's just say that that's the person you're looking to sell at, and you're a solo agent. Do you think that you could get some good advice on how they grew their business? And you could take some advice for them and genuinely ask and come from a place of like, I want to learn. And if there's anything I could do for you, what I'm saying? Like, you're opening it up and they're going to be like, wow, this person's asking me for help, like you're kind of tooting their ego a little bit, but you have to come from a place of a genuine place of wanting to learn or add value. Okay. And so that's how I would open it up. Like, what could they share from you? I have a principle that I stick to, and that is if I can't add value to someone's life and they can't add value to mine, then I have no business being in a relationship with them. That I use that generic thing for not just business, but even personal. Okay. And it's helped me hit the delete button on some relationships that I wasn't giving them any value. They weren't giving me any value. Now be careful on that button, use it cautiously, but I think of the same way when I'm thinking about bringing a partner aboard. Like, could I add value to them, or could they add value to me? And working together, could we collaborate and add value to each other? If the answer is no, then just scratch it. If the answer is yes, then you're either going to be asking them for value, or they ask you for value. And eventually, the conversation of scaling their business should come into the play naturally, not forced.
I love that. Okay.
Kevin,
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And if they can add value to your collective group, and if the group can add value to them too, sometimes I think if we look at this and go, wow, we've got this collaborative group that is really just helping each other in so many ways. This person has something unique they can bring to the table that will bring everybody in the group value. And I know these people over here could really bring this person value because what they shared with me, they're good at, or what they're missing in their business. That's the beauty of looking at and engaging with your group as a whole here within the EXP Family Tree, within your revenue share group, to see what exists and how somebody could really get value and bring value to that group. But you have to engage in the group in order to know, and then ask those questions and get into relationship to hear, and then to be able to share and cast the vision of how this could be a win-win for everybody involved. And I did post in the group, you guys, because of course we have every Tuesday and Wednesday, we have our trainings that you can invite everybody to. We never speak about EXP, and it's always value driven, and it's always around productivity, which is what realtors and broker owners and team leaders want to be able to expose not only to themselves, but their agents. And then John, who's on the call, John Dietz, does his call every single morning. It's free and it's hugely valuable, and people pay a lot of money for it. So you guys have all the things. Go to the pinned post in the EXP Family Tree Workplace group. If you don't have that information, you can copy and paste the calendar and then keep it somewhere so that you can easily assess it and then look at it and then go ahead and send it out to people as you're having the conversation. Make as many deposits as you can, and then pretty soon you can ask for a withdrawal. Al, great information. We so appreciate you. I will get that information on your class from you. You and I will work chat. I will post it, you guys, below this live stream in EXP Family Tree when I get it, so you all have it. Okay. Thank you guys, everybody. Al, we really appreciate you and your time. Congrats on your success, and thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Do it, everybody. Love y'all.
Very much.
Love you.
Cheers.
Thanks for your time.
You got it.